Chosen our three vehicles and we figured out what our monthly payment was going to be. Now it's time to find insurance. And one thing, if you're really young, you'll notice that your monthly insurance payment might be equal to your actual car payment. But as you get older, the magic number is 25. Your insurance should go down as long as you don't have any accidents or citations or tickets. So, what I'm going to go over now is how to get an insurance quote. And it just depends, if you want to go shopping with different companies. A lot of times we start out with insurance based on what our parents had for auto insurance, what company they had. And then, as you get older, you'll notice other people might be paying lower premiums. So you might be shopping around. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Progressive just because they give you a nice online quote. And I'm going to go ahead and click Auto to get my auto quote. And I'm going to go ahead and put my zip code. Now, that's really important because, if you live in the city, your insurance might be a lot more. We live here in Pennsylvania. I live in a rural area. Therefore, there's a good chance that I might encounter a deer. And so my insurance might be a little bit higher. It just depends. I'm not going to try to bundle my insurance, so I'm just going to go ahead and say get a quote. I'm going to go ahead and enter my first and my last name. Actually, I am going to, well, it's fine. I was going to change it because sometimes when you do a quote, your cars will pop up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do my date of birth as well because that's going to give me a more accurate quote as opposed to if I just put any year. And I'm going to go ahead and put my email address. I'm going to use a fake email address because I'm not really in the market for searching for insurance, so I don't want my email box, my inbox to be cluttered with all kinds of advertisements for Progressive or them calling me. So I'm just going to say at AOL.com. I don't have AOL, so I'm going to go ahead and say continue. It's going to ask me for my address. I could go ahead and put my address if I wanted to. And I'm going to go ahead and say start my quote. Okay, once again, it's going to ask me, okay, well, what vehicles? I'm going to go ahead and say, no, I'll add my own because I actually selected a 2025 instead of the one that I actually have. So I'll say I'll add my own. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to say 2025. I'm going to go ahead and say Lexus. And it was the NX. So it's the 350. Okay. Primary use, well, is it, one that you use every day? And notice how it will give you all kinds of different options. It's my personal vehicle. And then do you own it or lease it? I finance it, and we did finance it here for our project. And how long have you had this vehicle? We're going to say less than a month because remember, we're buying a new vehicle. And then it's going to ask you, is it equipped with an emergency braking system? And when you're looking at your research, you should be able to see, hey, does it have an emergency braking system? This one does. Does it have a blind spot monitor warning? Yes, it does. That's usually going to reduce your insurance. And I'm going to go ahead and say done. So then it's going to ask me, do I want to add another vehicle? I'm going to say no, and I'm going to say continue. So then they're also going to ask you, your gender. They're going to ask you your marital status. I'm going to go ahead and say single here only because they're going to start asking me for my husband's information and everything like that. So I'll just say single so that I can save time. Highest level of education and your employment status. So I am employed full-time. Occupation, I'm going to go ahead and say teacher. And then they're going to ask you, of course, what kind of teacher. Social Security number will give you a more accurate read. I'm going to skip that. My residence, I own my own home. My driving history is valid. I've had it for 3 years or more. I have not had any violations or accidents, so I'm going to say no to both of those. And then, of course, it's going to ask if I want to add anybody else within my household. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and just say continue because I don't want to add more vehicles or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and say continue. And then it's going to ask you, what is your auto insurance currently? So mine, of course, is with Liberty Mutual. Notice how you'll be able to see my bodily limits. Do I have any non-auto policies with Progressive? I'm going to say no, even though we have our motorcycle through them. How many years have we lived in our home? 9 or more. And do you own a motorcycle? I'm going to go ahead and say no, we do, but it's always like a separate insurance policy, even though we have Liberty Mutual. Okay, when it says start saving today, so, you definitely want to start saving. Like this will be a mobile app. I mean, I have Liberty Mutual right now and they made me do it. And so what it does is it tracks your driving history. It tells them if you're on your phone when you're driving. It also tells them, do you need to, are you doing hard braking? Are you accelerating? All of that type of stuff. I'll just say mobile app and then I'll say continue. I'm not going to bundle, so I'll just say no thanks. I will say I tried to bundle one time and my insurance was just a little bit cheaper with my homeowner's insurance that I have currently. So as we get our quote, there's a couple things that you have to take into consideration. So first of all, it tells me that today it's $60, but I have 5 monthly payments of $118. Why is it only $60 today? Well, we're halfway through the month, so that's why it's only $60. So you have to really read the fine print. A couple other things that we'll look at here is, first of all, what the limits are, because sometimes, you might not like this limit. I will say this is more money than what I pay. Not by much, but it's a little bit more than I pay. So when it comes time for your tort option, it says that I have limited tort, which means I can't sue if I don't like the outcome of the accident. When it talks about your liability limits, $50,000 for the first person, $100,000 per accident, and $50,000 for property damage. When we have our uninsured, they have it separated. We have 50,000 and 100 with unstacked options, which means that I can't pull from another driver. If I had stacked, if I went over my limits, I could pull from my husband's and so forth. Notice how I don't have accidental death, funeral benefits, loss of income, medical expenses is $5,000 for the first party. I have a comprehensive deductible of $500, which means if I hit a deer, I have to pay the first $500 and then my insurance will kick in. And collision, if I hit someone and it's my fault, I pay the first $500 and then it will kick in. I do not have rental reimbursement. I mean, my husband has a work truck, so we don't normally use his truck too often. So I don't really need that rental. With regards to roadside assistance, like if, for example, I get a flat tire or I run out of gas or something like that, I have roadside assistance through my vehicle through Lexus, so I don't usually choose that. I have enough equity in my vehicle, so there's no need for me to have this loan lease payoff. However, remember in the one lesson, we talk about leases and what's more sometimes affordable, but also what is more in tune with what you're looking for in a vehicle and your payment and so forth. So these are my limits. So I would say my collision deductibles, I'm looking at this liability limits of the 50, 100, 50,000. I'm looking at limited tort. And my monthly payment is $118.49, and I'm going with Progressive. I hope that was helpful. Like I said, I would definitely shop around if you're looking for insurance, because not every insurance company is going to give you the same premium, so you definitely want to shop around.